Hey everyone, Mr. MC here. This is a guide for round 8 of the 2021 FIA Nations Cup Stage 2 taking place at Rebel Ring with the Group 2 cars. And let's go ahead and get this started by mentioning that I have the brake balance at +1 or 1 to the rear, and we're on the racing medium tires, and the car that we're using is the 2016 Nissan MOTUL AUTECH GTR. So go ahead and bring yourself towards the left side of the track, and you want to brake just before you reach the 100-meter board. Brake hard for a short while, and you want to carefully transition over from the braking to the throttle as you're turning in. And be careful with this yellow curve, because if you hit too much of it, it can unsettle the car. So go around or over the yellow curves while staying on third gear, and keep the right wheels from hitting the yellow curve on the outside of the turn. So that turn is critical, and if there's one turn you want to focus on here at Rebel Ring, it's that first turn. Then brake before you reach the 100-meter board. Make sure you start to brake on the tarmac first. Brake hard for a short while, and once you hit the apex, you want to gradually get on the throttle to build up the revs, and just try not to be too aggressive on the throttle, as it can be very easy to generate wheel spin coming out of that third turn. Then brake before the 100-meter board again. This time you're braking just a little bit earlier. Still, make sure you brake on the tarmac. Carefully ease off of the brakes and take your time transitioning over from the braking to the throttle. This time bring yourself towards the right. Look for the 50-meter board as you want to brake before you pass it. This turn is a little longer drawn out, so take your time easing off of the brakes and take your time getting on the throttle. Take advantage of the curves to help with the rotation. Then brake just as you're reaching the track piece, and just like the last turn, take advantage of the curves as it'll help the car rotate a bit more. Then bring yourself towards the left. Look for a group of track marshals that are on the left, so they're hanging out before the 50-meter board. So brake before you pass those track marshals. Quick burst of braking, take advantage of the curves once again. And finally, brake before the red and white area on the left ends. Quick burst of braking this time around. Try to get on the throttle as soon as you can, and you are good to go. But that is all for the lap guide. Let's go ahead and take a look at the strategies. And the strategy is going to be different this time around because my internet was acting up once again. Hooray! But anyway, so just quickly glossing over the qualifying strategies. You have 2 to 3 chances to try to get a good qualifying time, and because these Group 2 cars are high downforce cars, you want to qualify away from everyone so you can take advantage of the clean air, because if you're too close to someone, you'll be engaging in the dirty air, your tires will wear out faster, and you're going to understeer a lot. So make sure you have plenty of space between yourself and the next car. So now let's move on over to the race strategy. So we are doing 17 laps at Rebel Ring with the Group 2 cars. Fuel is at ×2, so fuel is not an issue. Tire wear is at ×10, which means that tire wear is going to be a massive issue. You are given the racing medium and hard tires, and only the racing hard tires are required. So you will need to use the racing hard tires for at least 1 lap, so you don't get a 1-minute penalty after the race ends. So let's go ahead and take a look at the one stop. So this is where you use the racing medium and hard tires. So if you're starting in the very front, start on the racing medium tires. And if you're starting anywhere near the middle or the back, start on the racing hard tires because of the dirty air issue. As once again, it makes your car understeer a lot more because of the lack of downforce through the dirty air, and your tires wear out faster. So if you're doing the one stop, you're going to notice that the racing medium tires wear out really quickly. If you've been keeping an eye on the tires on the bottom left hand corner of the screen, you're going to see that tire wear already started ticking in as soon as I completed turn 3, which is the hairpin coming up, during the first lap. Tire wear is a massive issue because it is a ×10. So yeah, the racing medium tires, they're not going to last that long. Tire wear starts to become a problem on the racing medium tires as early as laps 4 to 5, and the racing medium tires are pretty much toast by the end of laps 8 to 9. So you'll pretty much be pitting halfway into the race to switch on over to the racing hard tires or vice versa. So let's go ahead and skip on over towards the halfway point of lap 9. The racing medium tires are already pretty toast, so it's time for me to pit on over because I'm already losing around a second per lap. And this is where the one stop becomes really questionable, because the one stop, or at least just the racing medium tires, they lap around 3/4 of a second to 1 second per lap faster than the racing hard tires here at Red Bull Ring. And with the tire wear being so high and the racing medium tires just not lasting that long, you're not going to be able to cancel out that pit loss gap with the racing medium stint. And I say that because the pit loss here at Red Bull Ring with the Group 2 cars is 21 to 22 seconds. So you're definitely not going to be able to cancel out that pit loss with the racing medium stint because the tires just wear out way too fast. So we're going to go ahead and switch on over to the racing hard tires, and yeah, 21 to 22 seconds pit loss time. And just make sure you shift down to first gear because you're on second gear for some reason. But yeah, even though the one stop is the safer strategy compared to the zero stop, which I'll mention in a bit, this strategy is overall just slower. By slower, I mean it's about 8 seconds slower than the zero stop, and this strategy sucks because it's slower even though it is the safer way to navigate through this race. But in the lower level lobbies, the one stop might be the better choice overall, just because you don't have to worry too much about tire saving, and once you're on the racing hard tires, you're pretty much good to go for the second half of the race, assuming you started on the racing medium tires first. So the one stop, 23 minutes and 50 seconds, and let's go ahead and take a look at the zero stop. So I mentioned earlier that the zero stop is 8 seconds faster than the one stop, so with this run, the zero stop, I was able to get a 23 minutes and 42 seconds. And here is the thing, even though this strategy, the zero stop, is faster than the one stop, this strategy also sucks because now you have to tire save for all 17 laps, and it is not going to be that easy, especially when you have to factor in that you may be dealing with dirty air from the other cars. And depending on how your tires are doing, you may also need to adjust the brake balance to try to save the front tires or the rear tires, whichever ones are wearing out faster. So for example, in my case, the rear tires were wearing out faster, so I did have to adjust the brake balance to eventually go from +1, which is 1 to the rear, to 0. You may even be able to adjust it to -1, which is 1 to the front, if you still have plenty of front tire life left. And yeah, the main benefit of the zero stop is that you don't have to deal with a pit loss, so you're not losing 22 seconds. And once again, this strategy is overall faster, but you still have to deal with the tire wear. So once you're halfway into the race, so around laps 9 to 10, that is when the tire wear slowly starts to kick in, and that's when you want to start to be a lot more careful with how you're driving the car, especially when you're coming out of the slower corners like the hairpins on turns 3 and 4. And actually you'll see me adjust the brake balance here at laps 13. So around laps 12 to 14, that's where you may want to adjust the brake balance if you need to. So on the controller, you can press the left or the right to change the multifunction display on the bottom right hand corner of the screen, and then press the up or down to change the values. So as you saw right now, I changed the values of the brake balance from +1 to 0 to try to save a bit more of the rear tire life. And sadly, it doesn't get any easier because the tires will just keep wearing out to the point where it gets really sketchy to drive. So once again, from the halfway point of the race and on, that's where you want to start to be a bit more careful about how you're driving the car. And towards the last 2 to 3 laps, that's where you want to be really careful about how you're driving the car. So as you see on the bottom left hand corner of the screen, The racing hard tires, yeah, they're pretty worn out, especially the rear tires, so you want to be especially careful coming out of those hairpins because that's where you can easily lose it if you push too much. And I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent because I really need to get this off my chest. This race is probably the most frustrating race I've had to test so far this year, just because this race is recycled. We did do this race last year, same exact settings, even the same exact time of day, except with the longer pit stops, it kind of just made this race even worse. So last year the pit stops were shorter and you could do a 1 or a 2 stop, so it was possible to do 2 stints on the medium tires and then just do 1 lap on the hard tires. But because of the longer pit stops now, if you want to have a chance, you're pretty much forced to do a 0 stop on the hard tires, and if you're not good on tire saving, good luck. That includes me because I'm not that good when it comes to tire saving. But anyways, back on topic. This race, the 0 stop, 23 minutes and 42 seconds. So the 0 stop is overall faster than the 1 stop, but it also carries its own risks. And I do want to take a quick look at the Lexus RCF. So this is the 2016 Lexus AUTECH RCF, as this is going to be the other viable car for this race. So the MOTUL AUTECH GTR and the Lexus AUTECH RCF, these two are going to be the most viable cars for this race. And actually it's pretty interesting because Rebel Ring is one of the tracks where the Lexus RCF is actually really good at, to where it's almost on pace with the MOTUL AUTECH GTR. And overall, the Nissan GTR is a bit faster than the Lexus RCF, but the Lexus RCF, it does trade in a bit of that pace for a bit more stability. So if you're looking for a car that is a bit more stable but that can still be pretty competitive, then the Lexus AUTECH RCF may be that car that you're looking for. But assuming that you're still going for the 0 stop in the Lexus RCF, you still want to be careful with how you driving the car because you still need to tire save. Tire wear is still going to be an issue, so you don't want to thrash it around. You want to be nice and easy with the way you're driving these cars. And at the end of the race, I'm going to end up getting a 23 minutes and 41 seconds as I'm almost spinning out right there. And yeah, the Lexus RCF, another viable car for this race alongside the Nissan GTR. So at the end of the day, the 0 stop on the racing hard tires is overall the faster strategy, but it is very risky because you have to tire save a lot and it can be very easy to spin out on the later laps, whereas the 1 stop, it is the safer strategy, but it is slower. But anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at places to overtake and the penalty steering zone. So as you go through turn 1, if you get a really good exit out of turn 1 and the car in front of you gets a really bad exit to the point where you're about to pull up next to them, this is going to be one of the best places to try to get the overtake done, especially with the use of slipstream. And almost the same can be said as we go through turn 3. If the car in front of you gets a really bad exit out of turn 3, they start to get a lot of wheel spin, it is possible to go for a pass as you go into turn 4, which is the second hairpin right here. After that, it's going to be a bit more difficult to get a pass done because of the dirty air. And as you're going through these medium to high speed corners, the dirty air will generate understeer, which means that you'll need to slow down so you don't end up understeering off of the track and at the same time shred your tires. And going into the second to last turn, it is possible to go for a move, but you also want to be careful, especially halfway into the race, because some people might be slowing down a lot to try to enter the pit stops. And the main straight, very situational to try to get a pass done because of that first turn. It can create a lot of awkward situations, so I would say just wait it out until you clear that first turn. And if you miss where the penalty steering zones are hanging out, the first one is just after turn 3, so it is the first hairpin. Not too long after turn 3 ends, you'll come across the first penalty steering zone, and then the second one is before the second to last turn, so this is just before you make that super sharp right turn to go into the pit stops. But anyways, that's all for this guide, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. Thank you guys for the support. Thank you to Placey for supporting the channel as well. So this is Mr. MCA, frustrated with this recycled combo, and I'll see you in the next video.